This is really the same kind of detector that we were using before, but it's got a connector on it that allows us to connect to this Vernier Lab Pro interface. The Lab Pro interface is connected by a USB cable to the computer. So I'm going to plug it in, and there are two different ports that you could plug it into. Let me zoom in a little bit on these for you. So there's the Digisonic 1 and 2 ports on this side, and then there's the channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4 ports on this side. The number of pins on the connector gives you the clue. This one has 6 pins on it, so that means that it has to go into this side. If I try to put it into one of these, it won't, no matter what I do, it won't go in there. I need to put it in one of these ports. And you can also tell that there's metal on this side, and there's metal connectors on the top of the port there, and so that's the direction I want to plug it in. So I'll plug it in like that, and I'm going to place the detector in this holder, and we'll see presently what the slots on the holder are for. And then I'm going to take one of my sources. I'm going to take the beta source, and we've determined that it's better, if we want the highest count rate, to have the unlabeled side facing toward the detector. And then I'm going to slide that into one of these slots so that it's really close to the detector. So you can see the tray with the green source and the snout of the detector pointing down very close to it. It's maybe separated by just a few millimeters. Let me try to get this a little bit better centered on it. There we go. Okay, now I need to bring up the software. So I'm going to double click on the Logger Pro icon to launch the software. And then I need to configure it so that it knows that it's talking to this detector. So if I go under Experiment and Set Up Sensors, and I'll click on Show All Interfaces, I connected it to the Digisonic 1 port. So I'll pull down the menu from that. Let me zoom in a little bit on what I'm doing. I'll pull down the menu on the Digisonic 1, choose the sensor, and we want radiation. And so it comes up, and it even has a little picture of the sensor that we're using, so that all looks good, and I can close out of here. Now that I've done that, the axes in this software automatically label themselves. So this is, again, Logger Pro software from Vernier. And so it now says radiation counts on the vertical axis versus time on the horizontal axis. The next step is that I need to set up the experiment. So I'm going to choose from here, under Experiment, I'm going to choose Data Collection. And I need to pick how long I want the experiment to last. There's not a big downside in having it last for a long time because I can always abort it. But for now, let's put in 100 seconds. And then, whoops, let me go back to that same place. And then also I need to choose the sampling rate, which means how long is each measurement window. So for now, let's try a measurement window of 0.5. Well, if I actually, let me finish doing that. I keep on hitting enter by mistake. When I hit 0.5 samples per second, that's 2 seconds per sample. That's going to be a little bit annoying. So let me switch this to 2 samples per second, or this one is probably the easier one to think about, 0.5 seconds per sample, meaning it will update the graph twice a second, and it's going to show how many counts did it get in that half a second interval. So I'll click Done. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole screen. And so now we're ready to go. Again, the source is pretty close to the detector, so we ought to get a pretty high rate. I'm going to click on Collect. It waits for about a second, and then it starts to fill the graph in, and we're getting a rate of about 150 samples per second. I can stop this at any time by clicking the Stop button, And over here, you have the time and the radiation count. So in that first half-second interval, let me zoom in on this a little bit. In that first half-second interval, we counted 159 events. In the next half-second interval, 147, et cetera. And so you can see that there are these statistical fluctuations up and down. They're not so huge because our count rate is pretty high. In the virtual version of this that you're going to do with the simulator, in the simulator version of this, you will be able to easily save this data to an Excel spreadsheet. In this version of the software, usually what we do is to just copy and paste the data into Excel.